The most fluent improvisers can help the listener hear chords without any chords actually playing. So how do you go from this to this? The tips I'm going to provide in this lesson I picked up over years of studying other guitar players' habits and tendencies toward improvising, as well as my own development in my improvisational voice on the guitar. The cool thing about these strategies is that you can mold them to your own styles and preferences. From shred metal god to blues king to funk master, these concepts will remain the same. I'm going to be getting into a fair amount of basic music theory in this lesson, so if you're already familiar with basic music theory, this will be right up your alley. If you're not, no problem. You can still follow along with this lesson, but if you're interested in learning more from me about Music Theory 101 and farther beyond, check out Guitar Super System. There is a link right down below to sign up. Guitar Super System's so good I actually don't even have to pay for crappy pre-roll YouTube ads.
Ever wonder why so many people say they want to learn guitar, but very few actually learn to play? It's simple. Too many people try to learn with YouTube videos, and guess what? It doesn't work.
Anyway, let's get started. First, let's talk about chords. The most basic chords are made up of 3 chord tones, typically the root, third, and fifth. There's sometimes more, but for right now, let's just focus on those 3 chord tones. So here's the crux of this lesson. You can suggest or imply chords by outlining chord tones in your melody, your improvisation. For example, if you're playing over a 1 to 4 change in A, that's A to D, you might play a lead line that begins on C sharp, which is the third of A, and resolves a half step up at D. So essentially, to outline or imply any chord, in this case A major and D major, you would use the respective root, third, and fifth of those chords. A, C sharp, and E, D, F sharp, and A, when those chords should be happening. You can use this strategy in a variety of ways. Melodic lines, you can play chordal lines, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's more maybe of a rhythmic aspect to your playing. I can arpeggiate the lines. Or you could put all those things together. And so far this has kind of been in a blues context. What if we were to change this from A major to D major to A minor to D minor and added a little bit of distortion? Put this in a metal context. I'll show you how these are the exact same strategies you can implement. I can play lead lines. I can play chordal lines. I can arpeggiate. Or I can combine all those things. So in order to improvise fluently, we've learned that you have to know the notes of the fretboard and the notes of the chords that you're playing in order to access those notes all over the guitar neck. That is going to be your roadmap, and the ability to read the roadmap requires you to understand what it is you're reading or where you're going. So it takes a little time, but everybody learns to read a map eventually if they want to. With all that in mind, I like to kind of take the approach of learning 2 or 3 different chord shapes all over the neck. So those shapes in this case are called triads, which you've certainly heard me mention in previous lessons. And it's important to know these triads in all the string sets, from the lowest inversion all the way up to the highest inversion. Starting from the lowest inversion is the way I like to test myself. So where's the lowest A triad on, say, for example, this string set? I know it's right here. That's the second inversion. And then we come up here to the root. Here is the first inversion, second inversion, root. And that's as far as we can go on that string set. And that's the way I like to test myself. Find the lowest A major triad, let's say on the G, B, and E strings. You know it's right there. And then continue up the neck. How about the thicker strings? Let's see. There it is. Then we come up. Remember, these are always the same notes, A, C sharp, and G. I can do it with the D major. How about the lowest D major triad on the A, D, and G strings? Right there. Root position. Moving up. Hard to get that last one. You get the point. And there's also spread voice triads. I could go forever. Check out Guitar Super System. There's an entire section on triads. They're extremely important for improvising and rhythm guitar, just overall in general the most important chord in music. You can also think in terms of intervals, knowing the scale degree of whatever notes you're playing and possible places it can resolve. So going back to the previous example of a 1 to 4 in the key of A, I know if I play a major arpeggio from the 4th of A, which is D, that gives me that D major triad that we're looking for when we are moving from A to D. And it also opens up the possibility of playing this D major triad or these actual intervals over that A and really adding some nice color, especially the 6th. That's a really nice note to target in melody lines. Like 6th, 9th, 3rds are always great. These notes, you'll understand how they begin to function when you start playing in this way, moving from chord to chord and trying to infer different chords without actually playing them, if that makes sense. So it'll not only develop your improvisation skills, but also just your sense of melody, which I guess are the same thing, but sometimes you don't think of it that way. So if I emphasize the root, the 4th, and the 6th over that A chord, it'll sound really nice when I go into that D chord. So I'll do that now. So you can hear how much color is added, but I'm still only using root, 3rd, and 5th intervals in that particular example. I'm just flipping which root, 3rd, and 5th intervals I'm using over that A chord, in this case, the D. So you can imagine how much more colorful you can get when you start to add all the other intervals, the second, the fourth, the sixth, the seventh, and all the flat and sharp iterations of those depending on the chords you're playing over or that you want to infer. It really is endless, but this is the grassroots, this is the foundation that every great improvising guitar player has to have before they can kind of move into that ether of improvising. I think that the best way to practice is just 2 chords just like this. In order to improvise fluently, you need to know the notes of the guitar neck, and you need to know different inversions of different chords all across the guitar neck, and that comes with the fretboard knowledge. That takes some time, but is totally worth it. So I hope you learned a lot in this lesson. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to sign up for Guitar Super System if you enjoy my teaching style and you'd like to learn a whole lot more in the tips, tricks, and licks realm if you're not into music theory. Or of course, there's plenty of music theory. There's blues, there's jazz, there's everything you could ever want if you're a guitar player from beginner to master. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. But until then, keep shredding.